Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Admiral Markets. Sorry for that small delay there. I was just needed to finish something with regard to the wave analysis that I do for Admiral Markets, and that has been released, but just needed to finish something up there. So thanks for your patience. We're going to take a look at the market together. We're going to take a look at the charts and the Forex. First of all, though, the risk disclaimer explaining that trading for exchange and global financial markets is considered high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. And this webinar is for educational purposes only. So we thank you for your attention. So we'll be taking a look at charts just to give you a rough idea at what we'll be looking at. It does depend from session to session because we theme or emphasize certain things within sessions, or every session, I should say. But in general, you could set up a trading plan in these 5 steps. In fact, first of all, you want to define the trend. Then you want to qualify what kind of opportunity are we looking for. For example, it could be a pullback. Then what kind of filters are we checking? Is there a daily top or bottom, close by, for example? The trigger, for example, could be a fib. But the entry itself could be, for example, a candlestick at the fib, which is then 0.5, the entry method. The main tools will be fibs, trend lines, and moving averages. And as usual, before we start, we're going to take a look at the Forex calendar. Let's see, we have some, I think it was pound news, yes, here. No, that's tomorrow. Okay, I thought it was today. I got it mixed up. Okay, the pound and CAD news, I had that in my mind, but that's actually tomorrow. That's not today. Today, it's German ZEW 2 hours from now, and otherwise, not really, no red tagged events at least. But we do have a Bank of Japan press conference during the Asian session tomorrow. Alrighty. Regarding the webinars, by the way, let's see, we had yesterday a webinar with Tarantula, and tomorrow we have, well, today, first of all, we have wave trading and Gartley trading. Tomorrow, intraday, and in the evening, introduction to chaos, and Thursday, Ichimoku, and introduction to harmonic patterns. So by registering, you can go to admiralmarkets.com, click on education, go to webinars, and you can register by clicking on the blue button and signing up. Regarding that wave analysis, by the way, just a small promotion for my own wave analysis. You can find that by going to admiralmarkets.com, go to the analytics, click on wave analysis, click on the newest day, and it's of course 21st of January today, and then you can see for the euro, pound, and dollar yen. So looks bearish for the euro. Pound could break either way. Dollar yen could break either way. So let's take a look on real charts here. Why that could be so? Well, I'm not sure. Let's see, how many people are in here? Not many. So probably most of you have been already here. In fact, earlier. Well, in any case, we know that this downside could either be a retracement for more upside, or this could be the start of maybe more downside. That's always difficult to know. That's why we have, or impossible to know. That's why it's good to have confirmations such as trend lines, and we have clear line in the sands where we want to act or not act. Of course, that helps us with defining and deciding, because it's probably just as important to know when not to trade than it is to know when to trade, right? Because if we have to make decisions every single point in time, it just gets frustrating, it's difficult. Our brain is really, our psychology is being tested too much because of the pressure to make a decision to enter the market or not, or it could be very tiresome. So by waiting for certain things to develop, it helps that. So by saying, okay, we want this purple line to break, or this orange line to break, that helps the trading psychology, because then we're saying, okay, we have nothing to do in between these lines. It can do anything at once, and we can move on to look at something else, for example. So that makes it easier to monitor and less stressful. If we're second guessing every time, or we think it could go up and we're beating ourselves up because it did go up, that's quite annoying. Well, in any case, the emphasis today is Gartley and wave, so I'll try to keep the focus on that. But in any case, even if we look at basically Gartley and wave, I'll still use trend lines because for me trend lines and moving averages are the way to make these confirmations, right? Are the way to set up that plan. First of all, maybe want to check, do you hear me properly? And you can see everything good? Just want to check. Thank you. Thank you, Wade. Thank you, Brian. Sylvia, great stuff. Okay, so let's start. Hi there, Bob. Thank you so much. Ahmed too, and Dan. So let's maybe start with the daily. Quick look at the daily is, of course, we have a rising trend line here, purple. We broke the magenta, but we have a rising trend line there. And if you put a fib from the very last swing high to the top, swing low to swing high, that could be a 61.8. So there is a reason to expect maybe a potential bounce. If we look at it from a fib perspective, that could be a bounce. 61.8 is also a potential Gartley pattern. I have to warn you, I'm not the very best in Gartley, certainly not. So I would only be able to bring you up to speed to the level of understanding what it is, because personally I don't use them. All right, I'll be honest with you. It's just that Gartley patterns are actually fib patterns. So if anything, I do use fibs very intensively. Gartley patterns are certain levels, ratios between certain fibs. So for example, if you have an 886 fib, for example, if price goes to the 880.6, and then travels up to, let me think, this could be a deep crab, if I remember correctly, 88.6, and if it travels then up to, I think 61.8, and then down to a certain target. Let me open a drawing tool. Now, I don't know all these ratios by heart, so I'll have to look them up myself. As I said, I don't use them. I just use fibs very intensively. Let's see, where is my drawing tool? Gartley in general go very well together with fibs. Also wave counts, for those of you who like it. You don't necessarily need wave counts for Gartley or fib, but there's definitely a synergy between all three. There's definitely, yeah, basically a alignment there. Good. Drawing tool is working. Alrighty. So the deep crab, I think it's actually 2 times 886. So if we have 886, let's see, if we have 886 right here, now this has to be x. Yeah, it has to be two 886s. We don't have one here. 886 would have to stop here, for example, but we don't have it at the moment. This down to 886. Well, let me just draw a theoretical one. Up, down. This is the 886 right here. Up for C. That's the 886 of A. Right, so those blues are 886s. That's a deep crab example. And then we go down, right, and the target is various fib ratios. In this case, it could be, for example, the 1,618 right there, 1,618 of XA, if I remember correctly. This is somehow I remember this one the best because it's a nice name. But you also have one called the Bat. Let me check that. I'll have to check up. Bat, no. Yes, Bat. You have also a normal crab. That's a 61.8 if I remember correctly. Yes, a crab, normal crab is in fact a bit variance in those fibs. So basically what it all boils down to is 3 swing high, swing lows. You have X to A, then down to B, then up to C, and then D. Let me see, or X, A, B, C, D, right? Various fib ratios. So in this case, I don't see I don't see one. In fact, it's just continuing up. In fact, on the Euro daily, we have higher highs, higher lows. So this could be a bouncing spot. And if we break the purple line, we could fall, in fact, I think, to the 78.6. If we rebound indeed and do bounce off this 61.8, then we could see a potential break above this orange. So that's why orange and purple are important for me. If we break below purple, we could see a continuation, a fall down to the 78.6, and then probably a bounce. And maybe then one more fall to the 886, and then probably bounce. Depending on exactly how the fall happens, it could go to the 886. Small bounce at 886, then fall to 886. If we do bounce at the 61.8, then price eventually should break probably above orange and back above magenta, and we can see the uptrend continue, and we can see probably price to re-challenge these highs here. How does that look like from a wave perspective? Because it's also a wave webinar. If we look at the 4-hour chart, you can see we have potential W magenta. This would be WX. We go up for magenta Y. Sorry, magenta W, magenta X. We'll go up for magenta Y. That's at the moment what I'm still thinking. I still have it as a bullish wave count. For the moment, this does look like a falling wedge. This looks like a correction down, correction up, correction down, and then we can continue to the upside. So there seems to be one more push down before we finish that correction of magenta X, and then we can push up. That's what I currently am, thinking. Unless we break indeed above this purple line or the orange line on the daily chart, then maybe I would consider this blue C already finished here, and the correction ended at the green circle, and we would see this upside continuation. So that's how it looks like from a wave perspective. If we zoom into the 1-hour chart, we can see that from the smaller time frames, it's more looking like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th wave of that blue C to finish purple Y, to finish magenta X. So one more downside, then up seems likely. So back to the charts. And then let's zoom into the 1-hour chart. So I'm looking for one more downside continuation. 15-minute chart. And it looks like we're actually spiked up about 15, 30 minutes ago. And that found rejection here around 7:30. About a half an hour ago, we spiked up but found rejection and are now moving to the downside. So let me use a different template here for a second. It's breaking below these moving averages that are neatly aligned as well. So that looks like a pretty good, nice breakout. It's going very fast, in fact. So that looks like an interesting short opportunity. Let me go back to the normal one. You can see the moving averages aligned with each other like this, right? The 34, the black band is below the green band. Price is breaking below that, and it's breaking below this trend line as well. So it's breaking not only the moving averages, but the trend line as well. It has, basically it has everything aligned, wave counts too, for at least a small downside. Shouldn't expect all too much, but at least some downside we could expect. Let me see, where was that 786? 1 second. $786 is pretty far away, in fact, so there could be some good continuation, but that would be a pretty big move. For a 50-minute world trade, the minus 272 at 34.71 is already a decent while away from now. So I'm going to give it a go and put entry at 135.39 with the stop loss at I'll try 55 right here above the trend line. That's also above this hour's high. The other stop loss possibility, of course, is above last hour's high. But for the moment, I'll go above this hour's high. No TP. I'll just trail stop the 50-minute world to see how far it goes. It's a bit difficult to TP because, on the other hand, I'm tempted to go for the 78.6, which is at 134.20, but that seems to be a very, very far move. So I'm a bit skeptic to aim for that. Then again, if it does start to fall fast, I don't want to limit myself to the minus 272 at 134.71. So I rather trail stop it and see which one seems the most realistic. The minus 618 definitely aligns up nicely with the 78.6 at 134.20, but I rather set myself up here for a trail stop than a fixed TP. Maybe it can even go to the 886. Maybe it stops at 786. Maybe it stops at minus 272. So I rather let the market decide where it wants to go and see how far I can get with the trail stop. Although I'm not even in the trade yet. Actually, it just missed me. Let's see. It went up to 38 and missed my 39. Oh well. In any case, this is just the first hourly candle. So even if it just squares up next hour, the 39 level is actually about halfway that hourly candle. So as we saw with the pound hod last week, there's usually speaking Remember last week, pound odd, there was usually speaking a retrace, and that's what happened last week as well. Remember, I had an entry order here, and it moved away from me within the 50-minute world. But eventually there was plenty of time. You see how too long it stayed here, because I was waiting for the level to come back here, and it was hanging around above my price for maybe half an hour. But you can see how long it took. Even this zone took so long, and then even corrected further before we finally got the continuation. So usually speaking, price doesn't leave a level. There is a certain point the price really starts to accelerate. Of course, look at this. Look at this. But there are many times that it also retraces deeper before you get that continuation. So usually speaking, most cases we're not unlucky enough to have it pending here and waiting for the retrace there while this is booming up. It can happen sometimes. In most cases we are stuck in these things and we have enough time to place pending orders. The 1 minute chart, we got a bit of a bullish candles here, so it's only 8 pips. I don't think it should be a problem for price to move up 8 pips and rebound, for example, back and pull back to this broken trend line. So let's see if that happens. Looks like a pretty big pin bar at the moment on the hourly, and a follow through for that expected continuation. How about the pound? Pound looks a bit different. Actually, I was waiting for a bigger breakout to the upside. Let's take a look at the daily. First of all, the daily chart. We have this uptrend channel. Price has been in that uptrend channel since summer 2013. Within that uptrend channel, we've had a bull flag here, right? Very nice impulse bull flag. The bull flag brought the currency back to the 23.6 fib, this fib here, and then we saw a bounce and a break of a weekly trend line. The break of the weekly trend line saw a pullback and continue, and now we're getting again a bull flag at the bottom of that uptrend channel. So the pound dollar definitely looking more bullish. First of all, it broke weekly resistance. Second of all, it pulled back, continued. It has a lot of impulse. It has a nice channel. And the next major weekly resistance is at 167.40-ish. And price is still a couple of hundred pips away from there. So there's plenty of space to go up to that level. So definitely pound dollar looking bullish. So from that perspective, if we then zoom into the 4-hour, we can see that bounce off the weekly trend line break. But also we can see, for example, this potential correction. And this is starting to look corrective. We are making more downside. So on 1 hour, 50-minute worlds, this is looking like a downtrend. But from a discretionary point of view, we can see that the entire structure is more looking like a triangle, wedge, bull flag, whatever it is, a consolidation, slow consolidation to the downside, which definitely could translate into upside continuation. Now, how do we know, at what moment do we know we could have upside continuation? When we break above the purple, right? Or when we break below the black. Those are the most two crucial lines in the sand, in my opinion, because if we break above purple, we're breaking out of that consolidation, and we should be breaking back into the uptrend that we've had, which means that we should have a bullish breakout, and we have potential up, to move up to the next resistance at 166.50, then 167.40. So that purple line is important. The bottom of the uptrend channel is important because if we break below that, this might fall back to the weekly trend line and bounce, and maybe even fall further. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on. Within the 4-hour world, so let's zoom in though, we can see that there is some kind of potential triangle here as well, like this, after an impulse. Usually those kind of pennants, chart patterns do break to the upside, but not always. Looks like we're trying to break to the downside at the moment. Let's zoom into the 15. But you can see why the euro is more interesting, because the euro has already established downside momentum. The pound certainly doesn't. It's in an uptrend channel. It broke out of weekly resistance. It's still above it. It's had an impulse to the upside here recently. So its structure is far more bullish, and your dollar is far more bearish, right? There's really no doubt about it. I mean, it's really difficult to see it otherwise, in my opinion. Now, at least with the tools that we're using now at the moment. Yes, and if we check euro pound indeed, then we'll see that it's indeed bearish, right? Which it had to almost be if you look at the euro and pound. And indeed, that's a good one way to indeed check that. And you can see, well, the daily is more of a chop, but you can see the 4-hour general direction with, although there's a lot of ups and downs with this euro pound, an overall picture is more bearish with this channel. Depends how you draw it. We can even do something like this. We have a small overthrow here, or underthrow, which is okay. Not all price has to be in the channel necessarily, or we can even put a channel on this. Like that. Now, of course, we are at a potential bouncing spot. Why? Because here's a support level. Here too. So, you know, if we break that, there is a potential to fall down to the bottom of the channel. If we were to use fibs, let's take a look. You can see that the very first fib went to the 50, then down to the minus 618, which means we can move from the new top to the new bottom. Then we went to the 786 fib, down to the minus 272 target. So basically, if we break below the minus 272 target and these support levels, there should be a fall down to 8140. Why? Because that's the minus 618. Right? We stopped nicely at this minus 272. We stopped nicely at this minus 786. We stopped nicely at the previous fibs. Remember this one? Here and here. So that's what we should expect as well if we do move to the downside. Sorry about that. So down to the 4-hour. Yeah, the only thing is we're right at support. So there's really, from a euro pound perspective, there's no trade from my perspective because it's in a downtrend, but it's also at support, which means that I don't see any with the trend setup because it's too close to support, but I don't trade, I wouldn't want to trade to the upside speculating on a potential bounce if it's in such a downtrend. So any upside would really have to see a break above orange and then a break above black to see any reversal potential. So the pound dollar and euro dollar, you know, if the euro pound does bounce, the pound dollar could fall faster, but it's not worth that risk. No, so I wouldn't be selling the pound indeed because of that. I would rather sell the euro personally. if it does move up there. But as I said, this 1 hour candle still has 43 minutes to finish, and then it still needs, probably will retrace a bit and then fall. If it doesn't, well, tough luck, I guess. What can you do? I was just a bit unlucky. Normally it doesn't happen all too often. Sometimes it does, of course. But I like the advantage of putting a pending order because it keeps me more disciplined. If I use a market order, then I usually always end up with, on average, it always costs me quite a good amount of pips because I'm willing to take a price at the market, the setup at a price that is actually a bit further than I wanted it to. So I'd rather do that. So back to the 15. No, so I would rather wait for the euro than take this pound personally. It's too, from my psychology perspective, it is too bullish. But I mean, I also wrote in, if we look at the wave analysis here, we can see what we see here. That's the whole thing. I don't know about the pound yet, what it is exactly, because we've completed 5 waves up, 5 waves of 5 waves of 5 waves, and now we're making a correction. So there is a potential for one more upside. Then I'll have to change the previous wave counts a bit. That is possible. I already checked it. We can make this a wave 4 and change it in such a way that we've had 3 waves up to here and then 4 and 5. It's possible. If we then look at the 1 hour chart, you can see I do have a red arrow if we break below magenta. So it's possible, but it's just not my favorite. Why? Because the spaces are so small. You can see from the 38.2 to the 50, very small arrows here. And I'd rather trade to the upside. Why? Because look at the arrows here. Much more space to the upside between the breaks and the targets, between the targets and the resistances. So if we go back to the live charts and we put a fib to this upside, we can see we stopped at the 38.2. The target will be the 50 for the moment at 163.85. That's only 35 pips. We've not even broken this orange line, in fact. We've poked or pierced through it, and the only thing underneath is a wick. To me, it seems very difficult to trade. So despite me having arrows there, I think it's not the easiest, but that's just my opinion. Because of those bullish factors, I like the euro more, but it could fall to the 50 or 61.8 today. But I rather, because it didn't even break this orange, not the easiest. Wei is saying, if it closes the hour like this, it's a reversal. Let's see. Yeah, depends. Pound dollar does have an hourly bearish candle, but it has some wick now at the moment, at least. We'll have to wait and see, indeed, at the end of the hour. But Wei, you mean a reversal back down, right? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Upwards. Yeah. That makes more sense in my opinion. That's why I was just checking because yes. There's definitely could be, we have to realize it could be a bouncing spot as well. Indeed. Don't forget we're in a bullish up channel with an impulse here, a corrective pattern, and we're making a triangle right at a trend line. So there is a potential to bounce at the bottom of the triangle to find a breakout to the upside. So totally agree with Wei, and depends how this hour closes indeed. If it's very bearish, it probably be more enough momentum to steam a bit forward, back to, or downward, sorry. If it ends up with a bigger wick, probably not. Wei is saying that there are 5 waves within this triangle, like this. Let me check. We had an ABC here for W, an ABC for X, and I have it an A, B, it's a bit funky indeed, C, and indeed 5 waves within 5 waves, yeah. Yes, this triangle indeed, this falling wedge with the breakout above it, yeah. Alrighty, so let's see, that will be still 37 minutes anyhow. Let's take a look at the dollar yen. This is one where I expected it to go deeper down to the 38.2. Which fib is that? If you put a fib from the entire, from the very, well, not the very beginning, but from this bottom onto that top, we have a fib of the entire upside breakout, right? Let me show you just quickly. Of course, the weekly chart, very bullish, where we had a very big break, triangle, bullish break of the triangle, and we had a tremendous impulse of that above even this resistance. So that's a quick recap of the dollar yen. A lot of yen weakness, big yen weakness trend, and we're looking at a lot of yen weakness continuation trends, just like we're looking at a lot of Aussie weakness continuation trends potential this week, in my opinion. So we'll discuss that now that we've looked at the majors, or euro dollar and pound dollar. So this definitely looking like a break of a bullish triangle after a tremendous weekly uptrend. So that's definitely piques our interest, of course. This uptrend has lasted very nicely. We did get a bigger retrace here, and I expected that retrace to go down to the 38.2. But it doesn't seem like I thought we would still get there today. But now that we're trying to break again to the upside, I'm having a bit of doubts, and I'll probably adjust my wave counts maybe tomorrow or Thursday, depending how it goes. But what could have happened, and that's always a bit difficult with corrections, is that this was a correction, this was a correction, this was a correction. And I was still thinking that this was part of a correction for more downside, down to the 38.2. Not that I traded it, but I was either waiting for a break here, a bounce here, or a break here. I did trade it from about halfway here and just missed my TP and trail stopped it for a few pips profit. So I took some upside momentum there, a bit late, but so I'm bullish, but just expected more retracement. But at the moment, not 100% sure, because here you have an impulse. This is starting to look like a correction. So what could happen is either we have a breakout up to resistance and then move down, or we do continue and break to the upside. The dollar yen would be remarkably more clear if price is at the 38.2 or above the red resistance. But in my experience, at the moment, usually what I've noticed is that the retracement sometimes does, if it's a very strong trend, sometimes it just, price doesn't get to the retracement expectations, and that could happen. So I wouldn't hold my breath for price necessarily getting here. And the only thing is, though, buying here is not too great. There's pretty big resistance close by. So we did break out of a trend line like this, hook back, but 50-minute world, we can see it's trending up with a good break here. Let me see. Put a fib on this one. And we bounce about halfway, 50 fib, as you can see, from this hourly upside. So, yeah, it just, to me, it doesn't seem the right spot at the moment, right? It's if you see what I mean, it's first of all close to resistance. It hasn't hit the 38.2, so it's, to me, I still see some percentage chance that it can move down there, although it's not high maybe at the moment. I still have my wave count set up bearish, which means that the wave count is still aligned for this. Let me show you. Here, wave 3, you see how many 1-2s, 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 and then accelerated. 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, and then it extends. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for 5 of 3. Right? Now we're getting the bigger retrace, and I still have one more retrace down. But as I said, not sure if we'll get there. In the wave analysis, I already had a green arrow here above purple, as you can see, up to red. So let's go back. A break of here with the stop loss here would entail about 25 pips risk, and the target could be 45. Not bad, in fact, not bad. It's possible. Maybe waiting for a retrace to the 50 would reduce the risk and increase the reward. 104.60, that could be interesting. Let's keep an eye on 104.60. If it reaches 104.60, I think it's worth an attempt. So in that case, 104.60 would have a trade with a tight stop loss, and that would be the potential reward. So that looks good. Then we'll take profit, because then you never know. It could make a bull flag like this and then continue up. Or as I said, there's still maybe a very small chance to do this. Downside to the 38.2. So let's try Ichimoku. Way is telling me that the price bounced off 200 EMA. Yes, it did. I can imagine. It also bounced more or less, well, not so neatly as usual, but accelerated a bit here. But it also went to the green band indeed. So I can imagine that 200 EMA is lower. Great stuff. And I can see that indeed is certainly a support zone, I can imagine. If we look at this fib, we also see something else. Look at this. We also see the price indeed going to that minus 618 target. And that's the fib of this move down to here, up to the 886, and then down to the minus 618. So that was probably another reason. Ichimoku, I can imagine. Let's add that. Let me make a blank chart. Bounce off the 4-hour cloud indeed. Daily chart is way above the cloud. The Tenkin is still above the Kiyun, although the Tenkin is flat. That's logical because of the the bigger retrace at the moment. The Cinco, I think, if I remember correctly, Cinco indeed, is above price. Weekly Tenkin is still pointed up. Yeah, this is bullish indeed. Probably one of the best breaks was actually when it just peaked up to the Kumo on the 4-hour here, and just above this candle that was peeking out from the Kumo perspective at 104.30. But anyhow, 1-hour chart just actually broke above the Kumo cloud not all too long ago. Very interesting. We'll be talking more about that, or using it more, on Thursday. I was waiting for 50 or 38.2 I was thinking of, but maybe we don't get, well, we will get the retrace, but not sure if it's going to happen now because it seems to be pushing forward. Well, in any case, I still think that a move back to test these moving averages is going to happen. So I think it's just a question of patience for that to happen. 38.2 or 50 is my preferred strike zone there. That would look interesting for that upside, and we can use these targets as potential targets. Major resistance is at 105.30, which means, let's take a look. It's way higher. So we could, if it does hook back to the 50 fib, stop loss below the bottom here. And targets, we could aim for this minus 618, I think. Something like that. So let's keep an eye on that. Pound yen broke out of this magenta, also broke out of this orange trend line. There is a bit of a channel going on here, and we're right at the top of that channel, so something to be aware of. Right, so something to be careful of. If we do break out of that black channel, there is a potential to move up to red. If we break above red, there's a potential to move up to the next red. There. If we break above that, then we're actually probably going to continue to the target. Let me get rid of these tools here, 1 second. Good. The bigger target, minus 272, if we do break out, because you can see obviously that we're in a big uptrend. If we put we can even put a uptrend channel on this daily chart easily, something like this, for example, like that. Something like this. So we can see nice uptrend channel. In fact, most recently, of course, we even had an acceleration of that uptrend channel like that. But we've broken out of that. That's fine. This was very steep, of course, right? So don't get me wrong, that isn't strange that we necessarily broke out of that. I'll make it a bit different color, like this, right? So within this daily uptrend channel, the black trend lines here, we had an impulse of this brown uptrend channel. We broke out of that one, but that's okay because it was very, very steep. All that acceleration primarily happened upon the break of these two trend lines, these two magentas. You can see once we broke out of the magentas, we had very nice impulses to the upside here on the pound yen. Impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse. So now we're back maybe in the correction part, but that correction part could be finished because we were very close to the 38.2, in fact, right here. You can see that could be a 38.2 bounce. This could have been a correction just for more upside. 38.2 fib is very common if there's a very strong trend. Then basically the 38.2 is very common, right? That is usually where the currency stops if we're trending very, very, very fast. So this is not that unusual. This was a very nice breakout. This was a correction, maybe a steeper correction than the previous ones. But if you look at the oscillator, the daily oscillator has very, very strong here. There's no divergence between the tops. Price is back to the zero line. The bars, the histograms of the oscillator, it's back to the zero line, which means a retracement is potentially finished. So there's very good reasons to see this as bullish, or to see it as bullish. And the key level here, 173. Once we break above this daily top, we can go up to 174.80. And if we break that bigger top, then we can go up to 180. And there could be at least one more upside continuation. So down to the hourly, now that we've seen good reasons on the 4-hour, daily for upside continuation, weekly, we can see that this might have been a correction. It was a nice rising wedge correction here within an impulse down, and then a break of that, another impulse down. It was very nice. But we had an impulse up again, and I said I didn't like really the structure of impulse down, impulse up. But now that we've had some consolidation, I know that this is probably a correction. This was an impulsive correction. This was a corrective correction. This was an impulsive correction. This was an impulse, and this is a corrective correction. And most likely, we can see or should see the break to the upside now. So down to the 15. Alrighty, 15 chart, and it will be a bit funky trend line because we're breaking a trend line that's sloped to the upside, and we're trying to break it. There will be a break to the upside as well. Normally it's sloped to the downside and we break it to the upside, or sloped to the upside and we break it to the downside, but sometimes it happens. The pound yen would have a target of 173.06. It's pretty far. $172.90 is the minus 618 target. Adrian is saying that he likes the GJ better than the UJ, in fact. Yeah, so the entry could be above this fractal. The stop loss could be below this fractal at the moment. That's about 45 probably. 50 maybe, 50 pips for a potential of 80, maybe even more. Not too shabby. Euro yen. Still a bit of a mixture here. If you look at the moving averages, you can see they're red and intertwined with each other. So that's a bit of a mix. We really need to probably break above this purple line to get a bullish breakout. And that, of course, has to do with the fact that the euro itself has been weaker than the pound. Therefore, obviously, the euro yen weaker than the pound yen. So the euro yen would really have to break above purple and eventually above green, like we make that a red 2, to see a more bullish breakout. Let's see, euro odd. Let's see, kind of like a bull flag here at the moment, maybe even breaking out of the bull flag, right? Very strong impulse, bull flag, and the bull flag carried on roughly to the 61.8 fib. Getting a bounce there. And this is looking like it too. It had double top, got a bigger retracement, but eventually price did bounce, broke above purple with an impulse, now making a bull flag. That too looking bullish in fact. Here too we can see big impulse, big correction and continuation. And the targets at 158 and 167.50 for example. Yeah, I think that one of the, a yen or probably a yen or odd weakness trade could be even better than the euro dollar. I'll probably wait for, I'll temporarily delete maybe this. I might move up the order. I'll move it up to 47 on the euro. That's 618 fib of that downside. Or I might even actually, if I think about it, might even wait for this hour to finish, this hourly candle. See how that hourly candle looks like. If there's a big wick, then it might even not be a good idea. And capitalizing, trying to trade the yen or Aussie might even be better. Yeah, I think I'll just delete it for the moment. I will wait and see. I'll see how this euro dollar ends up with this hourly candle. In the meantime, I think the dollar yen probably, if I think about it now and I'm looking at other currencies, that's why it's always good, in fact, to not to be too jumpy, at least at the beginning of the day, I think. I tend to take more trades later in the day than the very first hour or two. Yeah, so this dollar yen looks like a good setup to me. I think that makes sense. 104, 104.62, or maybe the pound yen, right? Let's take a look at the pound dollar again. Pound dollar has an impulse up. So if we take a look at this hourly wick, still 13 minutes to go, but it looks like it's bouncing at the moment. So if the pound would be to be stronger, right? It's an uptrend. It is making a triangle. It had an impulse. Then the pound yen would be better indeed. So I'll try that one. Let's see. I actually probably had already a pretty good retrace. I didn't think about it. This itself could have been a retrace, in fact. But then again, it's still close to that resistance line. So probably the best is a break here. Let me check. 172.05 is the high. So 172.10. Stop loss would be at, could be used, this 15-minute fractal we could use, or the lower one. Let's see, this is 60. Let me take a look at the hourly candle to see where the highs and lows are of the candle itself. We do have a 15-minute hourly bottom here, so that is a strong level. So that's the advantage of using the bigger stops. So probably do that. It is a very safe level, or safer level. It's a 1-hour fractal, let me say it this way. So it has extra support. 172.10. Stop loss would then be at 171.60. And my soft take profit area is 173, but I won't put a TP there as yet. Alrighty. So the euro odd, back to the euro odd. In any case, the euro odd is breaking above the bull flag. The only thing I don't like about that break is that it didn't pause at the trend line. What I like to see here is a pause, but it didn't. So in any case, if we break above this particular channel, there could be that continuation. In fact, I would say the 1-hour resistance here, pretty key for that at the moment. We're right at it. So if you like this euro odd, I would say an entry order above this red is probably better. Dollar Swissy. Had several breaks here, in fact. And looks to be bullish at the moment with a good 4-hour uptrend, as we can see. Let's see, the target of that, if we put a fib on, would be 92.10. So there could be breakout trades till that level. And this is looking like the euro indeed. It is looking like a pullback for more upside. So the euro dollar probably will fall. It's just like the pound yen a bit better. But let's see also how this hourly candle closes in 8 minutes. So otherwise, does anyone else have a preference? We could take a look at the pound out as well. Of course, that looks very, very similar to the euro out, in fact. Although it should be more bullish, as we know. Well, surely it does very look bullish. I mean, look at this rebound. Very, very aggressive. Right up to the minus 618. This is very aggressive. This is an impulse. This is didn't even reach 23.6. No, sorry, didn't, just barely missed the 38.2. Then bounced up, broke the trend line, made again a bull flag at the minus 272. Then broke up to the minus 618. So that was a very nice harmony. Let's take a look at that again. An impulse down to 38.2. An impulse, bull flag at the minus 272, break, and then a bull flag at the minus 618. So now that we've broken this bull flag of the pound odd, there's a good chance to go to the minus 1,000 at 189. Very nice harmony at the targets, chart patterns. So up to the 4-hour chart, and what does that tie in? Basically, here too we can put a fib on this entire upside. And what happened? Here too we went to 38.2. And here too we had a very strong impulse, bigger correction, now breaking to the upside. And you can see that this entire thing was a bull flag with smaller bull flags after it. And if we put a target on this impulse, bull flag, impulse, bull flag, and smaller bull flags here, the bigger target is at 194, which is the minus 618. So there's still a lot of space potential to go there. So yeah, that could be a good breakout. If you use the bottom, it is a big stop. It's almost unavoidable with the pound odd because of the massive movements it makes. Yeah, here too, to be honest, just like the pound yen, I think the downside for up looks good as well on this pound odd. Some type of retracement is going to happen at one point or another, and it will be a hook back probably to the broken trend line, roughly speaking, or just maybe shy of it for more upside. That's what I would expect. It looks like we're breaking this bull flag, so a break, pull back, and go would be good. And I think the pullback would be a good trade. So I do think that makes sense. So I'll put a pending at the 50, I think. By waiting for the pullback, it does make the stop loss smaller. And the targets, and we have multiple targets. We could use the very big one, but that doesn't make sense. We could use the intermediate one here at minus 1,000 at 189. But that's pretty far still, 189. I think the minus 618 at 188.58, how much is that? That's about 200 pips. Even 189 makes sense, but then I'll trail stop it as well in the 50-minute world. $188.90 and trail stop on the 15. Every new 50-minute fractal trail stop already. So that's my idea on the pound yen. Pound dollar, sorry, pound odd. Getting it mixed up. Pound odd. So looking at 50 fib, stop loss below here, and aiming for a very big target, but I'll trail stop the 50-minute world as well. So if it gets there, fine. If it doesn't, then every new 50-minute fractal, the loss is less or profit is more. Bob, I'm not sure if I answered your question in fact, but the dollar Swissy is indeed oppositely correlated with the euro dollar, definitely. Wei is saying about the dollar CAD, where to reload for the long side, just broke out of a 1-hour triangle, or it seems so. So this is dollar CAD. CAD definitely, the euro CAD too, I was looking this morning, definitely looking like weakness. The EuroCAD too, and it looks like a pretty nice bull flag. In fact, dollar CAD too, it looks like a very nice triangle like this. Definitely, couldn't agree more. It's a beautiful harmony. In fact, it is. It had a massive upside already from 106 to 110. Then I said be very careful of the 110 because we could see a bigger consolidation, and that's what we have. Of course, 1 week of consolidation, and we're breaking indeed out of the consolidation. So probably a hook back to 109.70 if it gets there. Back to those broken tops with a stop loss below 109.40, I guess, roughly. Seems to be a good setup here, just like the odds, the pound odd that we saw, right? It looks like a break, pullback, continue. So the 38.2, the 50, could be bouncing spots. Of course, price could continue immediately. Then we'll have to adjust the fib, and the fibs will get a bit more spacious. But definitely looking nice. The EuroCAD too, by the way. Let me show you the EuroCAD. I was doing analysis on the EuroCAD this morning. I didn't even see this dollar, but I was looking at the EuroCAD, and that had the same stuff as the dollar CAD, in fact. Here too, if you look at the 4-hour, or even 1 hour. What does this look like? Yes. Basically, CAD, yen, and odd all have similar setups against the euro, pound, and dollar. So those probably a combination of that, of the CAD, yen, or odd versus the pound, euro, or dollar is the better trade than trading the majors or CAD against each other, or CAD, yen, and Aussie against each other. Here too, if you look at that, looks like a bull flag. And in fact, if you look at the daily, what do we have here? Uptrend channel. Well, actually, if you look at like this perspective, we even broke out of this uptrend channel and accelerated to the upside. And we broke out of it, and now are hooking back and bouncing off that broken trend channel with a bull flag. If you look at the fibs, very interesting as well. Let's see. fibs here, very first up move, you can see that it stopped at the minus 272. Let me adjust it here, right? To the penny, stopped at the 50, continued with impulses, correction. Right after the 50 bounce, what happened? Impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, stops at the minus 272, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, makes an expanding wedge at the minus 618, then breaks above it. So you can see the harmony of impulses and corrections to the upside, which makes this channel, and the stop at the targets, but continuation because of the chart patterns. So the next target on the EuroCAD could be 152.77, which means that if we're breaking out of this channel here, that could be the move to the upside. But the dollar CAD could be better, indeed, because the euro dollar may be a bit more bearish still, although we know that the euro dollar could bounce to the upside sooner or later, so for a bit at least. So EuroCAD looking good as well for that upside break. So let's take a look at the euro dollar. Has a bit of a wick here. Don't like that wick at the bottom, and therefore wouldn't want to sell the euro dollar anymore. So rather sit on the sidelines here because that doesn't look like a good break to me. Pound dollar has a wick as well. That was not a break at all. Doesn't even have a body outside of the trend line, whereas the euro dollar has a body but still a wick. The pound, of course, is even more different because it has a body within the triangle and only a tad bit of a wick outside. That could be more of a bounce for a potential break than anything, so no, would rather sit on the sidelines. So to me, basically that would be the story of the day. Yen, odd, CAD weakness. I'm going to try to capitalize on that somehow today. Versus which one, I don't know yet. Maybe the euro. The pound looks the best to me at the moment if I look at the euro dollar pound triangle. We could also look at the yen, CAD, and Aussie triangle. So let's take a look at Aussie yen. Aussie yen is moving down. That means that the Aussie is even potentially weaker, although we've seen a rebound here. So question mark. Aussie yen was moving to the downside. Let's take a look at CAD yen as well. CAD yen moving to the upside, but definitely more CAD weakness than yen. So yeah, basically what else do we have left is we look at the CAD yen, odd CAD. So yeah, yen looks, odd looks the weakest at the moment. Let's take a look at odd CAD though. Odd CAD had a bit of a mixture here. We could be at a bouncing spot, but we did make a recent fall. So to me, probably the pound looks the strongest, the odd looks the weakest, although we can see when looking at the odd yen and the CAD yen that they are making some upside retracement. So I would say the odd and yen and CAD, all of them are pretty weak. It's difficult to tell which one is really the weakest. Maybe by a small margin, the odd, the Aussie. Therefore, I think the pound odd and pound yen are probably the better ideas. And any CAD wouldn't do bad either, but I guess, yeah, that's the story of the day, I think. Let's see if that pans out. Hopefully it does. Ahmad is, no, Amdad, sorry, is, sorry for that. Amdad is asking, do you have any idea why your dollar had that kind of a sudden drop? Well, in general, of course, the market is always moving according to, yeah, it's the path, what I call the path of least resistance, which means that it's like a river that flows from the top of the mountain to the sea. That river will choose the easiest path to get to the sea, not because it's lazy, but because it's the natural thing to do for the river, for the water to flow from the mountain to the sea. I know this sounds maybe funny to some of you, but I'm just trying to explain that for price, it has the same kind of logistics, it has the same kind of meaning, the same kind of flow, the same kind of momentum. It too will seek the path of the easiest path, or the path of least resistance from mountaintop to sea. So basically, whatever reasons it could be, whether it's fundamental, it was a news announcement, there was technical reason, there was at that moment the least resistance to fall, right? So why was that so? Well, for me, I explained it with technical reasons, and to me, this is looking like a triangle, and there is a potential for, when a trend is in play like this, we do have a downtrend on the euro, from a 1 hour perspective at least, although we know that from a daily it could still be up, and that's why I'm cautious. But in any case, this was maybe at the bottom, at the top of this resistance, and when price hits that level, there's no willingness to go long. Therefore, when it hits that level, price starts to revert slowly but surely, starts to fall more. No one's interested in downside because there's still space to the bottom of this triangle. Then it hits this triangle, bounces up a bit, but no one is willing to buy it up to the top of the triangle, and it breaks the triangle basically. So you get one fall, but it's always difficult to explain why price really does what it does. And also, in a way, doesn't really, doesn't influence what a trader does. So the question why, to a certain degree, for trading purposes, really not too important, if you know what I mean. From maybe a point of interest, I always explain the reasoning as I said, the path of least resistance. So if you maybe look at it as a river, then when you look at a river, it's very logical for you, and you think it's normal to see some kind of movement like this, right? So if you look at price as a river, and price starts to move like this, then it might make sense as well. So price, because of the human psychology behind the movements of price, very much a natural phenomenon, right, as a river, and the price and the charts are certainly not really that mathematical as a box, for example, right? If price were to behave as a box, it wouldn't be behaving as it does here. If you want to know more about that, a trader called Bill Williams talks about that. That's where I have these ideas from, and that's where you could read more about it. His name is Bill Williams. So makes sense to me what he said, but everyone will have to basically judge for themselves, of course, right, what their beliefs are of the market. This is my belief, and this will depend from trader to trader. Well, folks, I guess we'll wrap it up for today. If there's any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll close it for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Um, Amdat. Well, if you think that the news, yeah, I mean, of course there's certain news events that will definitely move the market for sure, absolutely. Um, Whether rumors maybe like Taiwan wants to buy dollar for their central reserve, or if it's, I don't know if it's a rumor or sudden news, whatever it is, uh, there could be that impact. It all depends really how you filter it. What do you consider important for your trading, and how do you use it? If you think that news is important, and it could be, but then you have to translate it in a trading plan. So that means that you have to find a way how to find the news fast and find it, set up a trading plan, how you can digest that information into a trading plan action. For my own trading, I totally ignore that. The only thing I look at is the Forex calendar to see when the news events are released, so I know what to expect when. But I don't take that information into consideration. What I use is technical analysis, basically, to make judgments about trading and translate that into a trading plan. So therefore, from my trading plan, I don't use that information. But I'm not saying that anyone who does, that wouldn't make sense. I don't. It could make sense very good, but I don't have a trading plan for that. And basically, my trading plan is to focus on technical analysis. So I would not be looking into that stuff, into that part. Hope that makes sense. If you can see, I hope you can see my reasoning at least. When will this be available on the archive? I'm not sure. Unfortunately. Let's see. Brian sent me a screenshot, I think. Yes, Brian Liu. Chris, I think I saw the two sets of EMA crosses, the green and red. Is that a custom indicator? Yes, it is. I tried putting two sets of EMA according to your specification, but it does not have the overlap thing that I see on your charts. Yes. Basically, there are two sets of moving averages. One are 34, and the other one is 36, 136. So that's actually just standard. That's nothing special about it. 134 EMA close, high, low, and then the same for 136 EMA high, close, low. So those are standard. The only thing is that they're colored. How do you say it? Depending on the angle. That's the only thing, in fact. But otherwise, you can use the standard EMAs. Let's see. Björn is asking or saying, yeah, that's true. I do think, indeed, a lot of movements are made from the technical point of view, indeed. Absolutely. Yes, you're watching me all pairs for technical analysis, and indeed, I'm basing decisions on that, definitely, indeed. Alrighty, folks. By the way, Brian, Lou, this indicator you can find, it's just a normal angled moving average indicator. So you can find that. If you can't find it, just let me know, and I'll send you an email with it. No problem. But you can find it almost. It's just a customary slope indicator of moving averages. It's nothing fancy. But if you can't find it, just let me know, or if no problem for me to send you that. All right. Best is to send me an email. I just sent you that email, okay? Otherwise, then I can just reply to your emails easier for me, okay? You have it there in the chat. So, folks, thanks again. I'll scoot you off now. And, well, thanks again for joining, and wish you all great trading. Okay? Cheers, everyone.